Again, it's Isika here with Msafiri podcast, and today I have an amazing guest. I will have him introduce himself, but before he introduces himself, I just want to encourage you guys, please, to subscribe to my channel and also share. You do that, it helps the channel grow. We are trying to hit 500 subscribers. So if you can, please share and also subscribe and encourage friends to join our channel and also listen in to the different videos that we have done in the past. So without using much time, I will have my guest introduce himself.
Thank you, Isika. My name is John Mondi. I serve in a church in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I have served this church for 15 years. Initially, I was born and raised up in Kenya, worked in Kenya for some years, and transitioned to migrating to the United States, to where I have been now for the last 20 years. And it's such a privilege to be able to be part of this conversation today. Isika asked me to speak on a very important topic. And I must admit that I'm not an expert in this. My academic pursuits has been in the area of theology and missiology. I had my final PhD degree in missiology, or what they call intercultural studies. But this is a very practical topic that you don't need to look far, especially interacting and working with people. People come with a lot of personal problems, talk with them and try to figure out where this come from. And what the topic for this time is relating to the midlife crisis. And I'll say this is a very real experience for many people, especially at the converging point between transitioning to becoming a senior adult and retreating from anything youth. So it is a period of transition that occurs for people in the middle ages, and suggested it ranges between 40 years to 60 years old. It is also indicated that most of the people that suffer greatly are men. But this is not exclusive to men alone. This also can affect every human being, men and women at the same time. So it can deal with issues relating to identity, things relating to status, and even status in terms of employment and expectation in terms of where you should be financially, or other issues. All those expectations that you had as a young person, and you realize that the time is closing. Where you are heading is drawing closer every day, and you realize that you have lived more years than the years remaining, and that's what exacerbates the anxiety and stress about it. So there are some common symptoms. Some of the symptoms can be triggered by some other stuff, not necessarily midlife crisis, but these are commonly agreed to be some of the symptoms of, if somebody exhibits some of these, then probably suffering from this struggle. The first one is feeling sad and fulfilled or bored all the time. Whatever you don't feel satisfaction in it, you don't feel fulfilled. Another one is thinking about the past. You have a nostalgia about the things in the past, things that you did not do. And this kind of occupies your mind and your conversation, and just going back all those good yesteryears. And then another one is making impulsive decisions, very irrational decisions. It's like you're daydreaming. And I remember there was a man who kept on talking how rich his dad was, and that is gone. He doesn't have it, but there's something that tells him that he will be there, and it tends to dwell in that. So it's just a little light in that moment, but it's not a reality. Feeling regretful is another sign. You regret about stuff, things you are told and you didn't pay attention to. Probably you are asked to prepare yourself financially, save every shilling you get, you save half of it, or whatever amount. And coming to the convergence of this moment, therefore, you realize that I have nothing left. What will become of my retirement? what will become of my old age? I'm going to live a miserable life. And probably this is the moment also most people have problems with their marriages, especially if the marriage expectations were unmet and both spouses begin blaming each other. The wife had hope of a certain husband she wanted to have. The man feels like he's a failure. I wish I knew I would have taken a different trajectory. Others making an irrational decision. Maybe it's good to let go and marry a new person and it doesn't go well sometimes because you begin afresh and even exacerbates the anxiety even more. So another one is comparing yourself with others is another symptom again. You see always this grass greener on the other side, that you are not enough. What you have is not satisfactory. It's like you don't have 24 hours like anybody else. So you talk about the people, you compare yourself with them, what they have and what you do not have. So those are some of the symptoms of midlife crisis. Nostalgia with the past, regrets, life is bored. People seem to be very purposeful. It's like you are cornered. You feel like a mouse cornered in a house and you have nowhere to go. It's a very serious situation. Some of the possible causes of midlife crisis. You may wonder what might be causing this. And one of them is a gradual decline in happiness. Gradual decline in happiness, of course, triggered by what I've just shared earlier, which can be more prevalent in a high-income nation, for example. You had a good job, and for some reason something happened, and you don't get that income anymore. This decline in happiness. Your life is not the same. Even you downsize the size of a house you have, you now begin driving a different car than you used to drive, even visiting whatever, clothing, all this, everything changes. And that kind of takes you to a different level of unhappiness because your life is not the same. It's not what it used to be. The collision between the youthful expectation and the middle life age becomes a reality. And I mentioned this, that you realize that you cannot go back to youthful years so that you can reinvent or restart again. The reality tells you that if you are 60, it tells you that you have maybe 10 years. If you use the Bible as a yardstick where I say 70 years is quality years that you've been given by God, then you make your calculation based on that, and then you realize you have 10 years if you're 60, and you have 20 years if you're 40. And that brings another level of anxiety. You cannot go back, you can only go forward, and forward has less years and less days and less opportunities. And you remember, if you're living in the West, every capitalistic situation where you rely on white-collar jobs, you know that as you hit 45, sometimes you are rendered less productive in terms of being employed. The chances of losing your job in that age in order to get a new job is very slim. Is very slim. There is that fear that you cannot make the years that are lost. So that's another cause that your work has changed and you cannot replace it. You cannot replace it. And then finally, transitioning in social networks, change of places, especially people migrating from countries. In a certain age, you had a well-built relationship network where you come from. I come from Kenya, but I lost all of my friends, the childhood friends, the people who went to college too, and then I migrated to the United States. It is very hard to create new friendships. So that transition also can cause a lot of crisis. Where do I begin? And nobody knows my history, nobody knows my strengths, nobody cheers me up as my peer back where I come from, and that can cause anxiety. And also, transitioning again, all of a sudden things happen. Maybe you have a sick child or a sick spouse or a sick family member, and you realize that you cut things down and you now become a caregiver. That takes away a lot of things, especially when it comes in that time of your age. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the causes, and it's a reality. It's a reality. Men tend to be authoritative and they tend to own their success. And if something happens that you cannot provide for your family, you cannot keep up with the the birds that you used to fly with, you're flying alone, you're alone because you don't belong. That tends to hit very hard. And that pride of being a man, for example, for men, pins you down. And that's why you find people in this situation wrestle with this situation, what to do, and people end up making bad choices. But I think you might be asking yourself, then what do I do if this is a reality?
Yeah.
Yes, what do you do? It's a reality. Number one, I think you exactly do that. Acknowledge that this is a reality. You are in this situation. You are in this crossroads of life. And if it happens that you lost your job, or you're transitioning to a new culture, or you have become a caregiver, or you have lost your job, affirm that. Affirm that. Own it. And then after recognizing that this is a reality, just take out the pride and share with people that you are close by. One of them is family members. Some of them are your friends. Open up, and you might get help from other people. And then another thing you can do, turn to your friends and your family, and then you grieve well, and recognize that this is a reality. I cannot go back. And finally, it is good to calm down and say, I have 15 years ahead of me, I have 20 years ahead of me, I have 10 years ahead of me. What will add value to my life, rather than procrastinating and having nostalgia with the past that did not go well? I think it is good to know that each day comes with different goods that might transition yourself to become a better person. Don't lie to yourself that 1 year, 2 years, 5 years ahead of you will not add value to your life. The deception that you might have in yourself that you cannot make it, you cannot recover the 30 years gone. That is not true. And that's something that I can rely solely in my Christian values as a person of faith. There's a scripture passage in the Holy Bible that says, the mercies of the Lord are new every morning. And when I find myself in that reality, I need to remind myself that I am in a new day. And I need to look around and see what God has in store to upgrade what I have to change the course of my life. And we have had stories of people that have given up, but because they trusted that every minute, every day that comes, they will continue fighting. They have turned their lives like that. And some of them end up becoming very valuable years, thinking that the midlife crisis, going towards the 60s and 70s and old age and death was a valueless thing. And that became a great phase for them to transition and become very valuable people in terms of wealth, in terms of creating new friendships. It is recognizing that I have been allowed to live another day, and you ask yourself, what is in this day that can be valuable for me? So talk with family, talk with friends, align yourself with people that will encourage you, grieve the losses that are there. Grief is a reality, it's an emotion that needs to happen, but don't keep it to yourself. Don't keep it to yourself, because this is the changes in life. The midlife crisis is not exclusive to one person.
Yeah.
It is a universal thing that happens. And for example, in 2007, 2008, there was that economic crisis that happened. People lost millions and millions of their savings, and they started from zero. If someone cried and sat down and said, I can't do anymore, a lot of people would have died. I'm very sure there are people who despaired and probably they were injured because of that. But there are people who just dusted their failures and build from where they are, and they are doing well. So there's hope. As long as you're alive, I will say don't let go. I'll say don't let go. Don't let the midlife crisis. Anyway, and I don't know, as a man of faith, I think the issue of midlife crisis is a psychological coin phrase by psychologists and characterize human beings. But as a man of faith, I think every stage in the presence of God, whether I'm at 40 or 60, there is always a good tomorrow. And I'll end and say that the mercies, those new mercies that rises every day, the new sun that rises every morning should be something to lighten your heart and brighten your mind and continue fighting, and something great will show up and you will transition yourself for the better.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot to take in, Pastor, Brother Mondi. But the reality is that some of the things that I'm picking up here, first of all, I have to admit, this is a reality I may not want to know because it's scary.
Yeah.
It's having the knowledge that you know that this knowledge is soon going to be a reality.
Yes.
But then, is it good to know or is it good not to know? I think it's good to know.
It's good to know, yeah.
I think it's good to know. And so even how scary it can sound, I think it's good to know.
Yeah, just to agree with you, there's a military term they say, you cannot find an enemy you do not know.
Yes.
And that's why the people at war, the military people send spies, because they want to know the strength of their enemy. They want to know them in and out. They want to know their strength. And I think when you know a problem is coming, when you know that this is something that's a reality, then you are prepared.
Yes.
Then you're prepared to dodge, you're prepared to be offensive about it, to tackle it, to see what kind of collaborations you will have around you. So it's good to know. It might be painful. It's as painful as knowing that there's a military somewhere recouping to attack.
Yes.
And they can attack any day.
any day.
All right?
Yeah.
So when you have that knowledge, you are always sensitive and ready.
Yes.
So it's good to know. It's good to know. It might be as painful as it is, but it's good to know. It's good to know that it's coming. A midlife crisis or transitioning in life to a different situation, life change every time. It's good to know that these are inevitable changes in life as long as we are alive.
And this midlife crisis, it doesn't discriminate. Does it affect everybody at some point?
Yes.
So we all have to pass through it.
Absolutely. I think probably maybe there's a rich man who was fully functional and nothing was wrong with him, and all of a sudden sickness hit and they cannot move out of their wheelchair or whatever situation, or they lose their mind, any form, and therefore they have a lot of money.
Yes.
But now the status has changed completely. Physically, they cannot operate, and the pain is as real as for the person who doesn't have money, who wants to have money.
Yes.
You have the money, but you cannot use it. You cannot function. So the same anxiety comes in. It is not. It's not exclusive to just a particular group of people. This is universal. It can happen to anyone, anytime, regardless of your status.
And I would think that in that case, different people will handle it differently. There are people who probably would take advantage of any situation and try to make the best out of it.
Right.
And by definitely, it sounds like from your description, in one way or another, it does affect somebody's decision making and maybe making like abrupt decisions.
I think we go to school to learn to be corrected, and I think life is a learning process. It's a sense in which we are always students. We are always learning.
Yes.
And you think you have this level of education or you have this experience, and something profoundly different shows up and you have no idea what to do.
Yes.
So life is about learning all the time. And if you embrace the posture of being a learner, for being a student, for being surprised all the time, and then as a student you ask questions, you become curious, you ask, why will this happen? And I think the scriptures names that as lament. We lament every day because something shows up, something so big beyond us. But there is that aspect of lamenting and seeking for what is it that is making this problem to linger? Why did this happen? And you become inquisitive that they're looking for solutions. And I believe when you're restless and ready to learn, something will show up. You went to school and you are told that the scientists, the people that have made discoveries, the things that we enjoy, they failed and failed more than that. They were frustrated.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It shouldn't, the issue of age, 40, 60, 70, calling it midlife crisis. Yes, it has been framed that way. But I think in every stage we have a posture of being students, being inquisitive, and just being good fighters all the time. I think that's the embodiment of that. It reminds me of one of the biblical writers called Paul. And he said that regardless of what happens with me, I am running towards a prize. I want to finish my race.
Yes.
That is a fighter.
It is a fighter, yes.
That the value that all of us have, whether you are in midlife crisis or young person or even 80 years old or somebody who is seriously sick, there is a value of having that life. The pumping of your heart. You're still alive. And as long as you're alive, I think Paul was very right. We continue fighting and running the race towards that which God has prepared ahead. Yeah.
The other surprise that actually got really surprised when you're giving the synopsis of midlife crisis was that this actually affects both men and women.
Yes.
For some reason, I always assumed that, in fact, you are the one. The first time I heard about midlife crisis, I heard it from you.
Yeah.
And I got really curious. And you explained a little bit.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I assumed it only affects men.
Yeah.
Mostly. And so today, it also affects women in some ways. I'm actually really surprised.
It does. It does, because when you come together as a couple, there are expectations. And as you move along, you realize that those expectations will be unmet. And if you dwell there, whether a woman or a man, you dwell to see this Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect, and you continue to persevere and look at it, it will reach an optimum point where you realize that all the expectations that I was looking for might not come, might not be what I saw.
Yes.
It's either you change the course and see things differently, or you continue fighting about that and it will kill you. So it's good to... Even as a business person, I know you're a business person. At some point, you do your business and then you take audit. And there's that what we call internal audit and external audit.
Yes. And
people do audits all the time. And I think even for men and women in their own lives, personally, I think we need to sit down and say, where are we trading wrong? And where is the false expectation arising from? I could lie to myself and say, by next 2 years, I'll be a millionaire and I'll be chasing on parts that will not even give me 20,000 a year. So if I lie that I'll be a millionaire in 2 years, I'll be frustrated if that is the trajectory I'd like to follow. So it's good to take audits in your life as you move along and realize I was wrong here, and be willing to correct yourself and be willing to seek advice from other people. And this is, I believe, marriage as well. And women have expectations, men have expectations, and if they are not true to it, if they are not real to it, then it will hit them that we are year 40 and none of this. What did I marry? Why did I marry this man? I thought I would get this, and I've waited for 40 years and there's nothing. This was all wrong. Yeah, I think it's good to be realistic and know that maybe what you are expecting was not the right thing.
Wow. So what I'm hearing here is part of the negative effects of midlife crisis. It could lead to problems in marriages, relationships, maybe even divorce.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, what should people do, or what should they be thinking or doing things differently? Because I'm starting to think that if the midlife crisis hits a person, let's say me, and now I have to make this decision, and because it's a crisis, I'm probably going to make this decision in a selfish way, probably in a way that I'm trying to counter whatever I'm experiencing. And in that element, in that space, it's very easy for me not to consider if I married the other person. And that could lead into problems. So then in that case, could you, I know you had mentioned, but maybe you can elaborate more. How can people go through this phase of life, ensuring that they are also considering the person they are married to or their partner? And also, for the side of the partner who is not maybe there yet, how should they be supportive of the person who is going through the crisis?
This has to do with different ways of understanding marriage, especially in our time. I, as a man of faith, I think marriage, people say, is a contract, people say it's a covenant, people say it's just come, we stay and enjoy each other. Yes, it's been watered down, but I think marriage is a covenant, as far as I know, and it's real, and it's blending of two lives, metaphorically and seriously, spiritually. coming from that tradition of understanding marriage, I'll say, when you are in it, when you get into it, it's good to be truthful to each other. Getting to know the expectation of the other person. There are silent expectations that people don't share. And you anticipate the other person to know through osmosis of what. No, but I would say, if people are mature enough and truthful enough, it is good to, again, sit down and analyze these expectations. And you realize that maybe this expectation will not be met. Then you ask yourself, what course of, what path should we therefore take from here? What do you compromise? You negotiate. What do you compromise here? And what might you change to bring us to a balance? But if you just keep quiet and probably wait for things to take course by itself, might not end well. So I'll say is conversation and talking about it. And again, for those who are not yet married, it's good. There's, I don't know how to put it. There's that blindness of hoping to tackle most of the things when you're already married. There's something, you are dating someone or courting someone and you realize it's something that you need to be cleared. Don't hide it. It's better to speak about it so that the other person can make their minds whether they can sit with that or not. Let's not hide it because it will come later. You see a smoke somewhere, you would like to look for the fire. Where is the fire?
Right.
And I think if you are serious in getting to a serious relationship, like signing a covenant together to live forever, and then it's good to deal with those things so that if somebody wants to take you the way you are, then they are ready and they know exactly who you are. They know exactly what you expect. They say, I cannot take those expectations. Then I say, okay, let's negotiate. That is the time, the preparation time of courting and dating is getting to know each other. By the time you are in, and I'm not saying that there will be no problem. Others will rise, but I think you'll be hitting big elephants of these expectations that might end up killing the marriage later.
Right.
And sometimes I've been told that there are a lot of assumptions before people get married. They assume and say, we'll talk with that one later. I don't want to lose him or I don't want to lose her. And once you're in, and it becomes a real problem that will derail you later.
Yes, yes. Wow. That's yeah, I think it's what I'm hearing is the more you prep, even before you get into marriage, I think the better. And also I think that can also the exercise of being honest from the very beginning.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, as you are saying, if I say, oh, we'll deal with that later, so that means like somebody's not saying something, even if they're saying it, and then becomes a problem later in the relationship or in the marriage. So sort of communication.
Right.
A lot of times I think we fail to communicate because we don't want to hurt the other person.
Right.
And then in the process of not wanting to hurt the other person, then it affects, long-term effect is very bad.
Exactly. And I think also it's not only in the institution of marriage to safeguard it is.
Yes.
We have friends, and a friend that will call you and say, oh, David, I don't like the way you are misusing your money. How much of it are you saving? Do you know that time will be here before you know it? Are you really? If you have friends that really can get into your skin and tell you the truth, that is a true friend.
Yes.
Like the true partners that would like to get married to each other, they will be as open as possible, as frank as possible to each other. Even safeguarding ourselves before we get into this midlife crisis stuff that can be solved. It takes a good friend, it takes a good family member, it takes a good employer, or people, or financial advisors, whatever people we have in the community. But those are the things that will become a problem when you are in it, because you will be hearing those voices.
Yes.
It's better that for the young people or people who are beginning life, 20s and 19s starting, it's good. It's better to prepare. It's better to prepare now. So rather than looking back and listening those voices haunting you. Somebody told you to do this, and exactly what they told you some years ago is happening at year 40, 50, or 60. There is nothing as painful as that. So it's better to listen to those voices around you, friends, good friends that would like to add value to your life, family members that mean for you, your teachers in college, your advisors in different levels of your life. Listen to those. Listen to the people that add value to your life.
Yes.
And you'll avoid most of this.
Yeah. And then just in the perspective whereby we as Africans living in the United States of America, different culture, different environment, a majority of our families are far away. And so that affects us in so many different ways. And do you think that we as African in diaspora living in the United States during this period of midlife crisis,
Right.
that we tend to approach it differently than people who are actually in Africa?
Yes, I think I think it is even more serious here.
Yes.
Because when we come here, we are fighting two worlds. There's a world we left back home. They think that now our son, our daughter is in the middle of dollars and they are supporting us. And here, you're working 3 jobs, no job, the cost of living is very high. And sometimes we are not true to ourselves. We end up pacifying the expectation by sending every little money that you have to them. And year 1, year 2, year 3, all of a sudden you realize you are in year 30 and you have nothing. And you look back home, you realize that the only thing you left was that grass-thatched house. Will you go back there? You don't have anything. You've been living in an apartment here. You've been sending all the money back to Kenya. And now that really becomes a very critical moment, because here in the United States, when you don't have a job, when you can be homeless anytime. And every person that knows you seems like they don't know you when you don't have a place to live, when you don't have a job to do. So it is very serious here than home. There's that communal aspect. We have the community cushion there in back home in Africa, because you could be having family farm, you could be having an uncle who will hire you. It's a communal life. You will not live hungry in Kenya. But here, you can be homeless as quickly as possible. My subjective advice, don't take this if it doesn't mean anything to you, is that you are the one who knows exactly how life is here. Those of you who live in diaspora, you know how life is here. You know the reality of what you get and what you do not get. You don't have to impress anyone and ultimately end up suffering and causing yourself a lot of pain later. It is the same people when you return to Kenya or Nigeria empty-handed, they laugh at you and say, you went to United States for 30 years. What have you come with? And you realize that in your records, you've been sending 60,000 Kenya shillings or all this to these people that they don't remember. They are laughing at you. You sacrifice a lot. So I'll say, yes, support people at home, support people home, but also remember what we are discussing today will come. That midlife crisis will come. And you realize that you have no time to raise enough money to support you in old age. You have no money even to return well back home if you're planning to return. Or if you're planning to retire, you don't have enough retirement money. So this is a reality, and it's even painful here, because what you depend is the job you're doing here to save you later. And I'll tell people also to venture into making wealth here rather than depending on just one path of raising employment and all this. I think we need to diversify in the diaspora also the ways we can support ourselves. And then finally, I think it's time, probably I think this is happening in other places. We need to have a support community where we come together and find out where people are, learn from our own strengths, and just be generous in encouraging one another so that we can finish well together. We are just a small community of immigrants migrating to another country, and we can create a community that will build each other in the future. And that can be done by people with like-minded, by people who share the same knowledge and perception of how life might look like, including what are the resources that the diaspora people are not aware. Maybe that's to do with all the insurances that are there that might be helpful in the future for your family and you. Let's talk about it. And it might begin in places. I think churches are good places where people have like-minded. There's a common thread in terms of faith and how to help one another. Helping one another is one body united together. And maybe you can build a base from there. So, yeah, your observation is right. Even the case will be serious for the diaspora people because of the same reason of spending all the income you have, sending them home, and you end up remaining with nothing. And it is coming soon if you don't pay attention.
No, that's right. I want to push on a particular point here. So for my own understanding,
Yes.
especially when it comes to sending money home,
Yeah.
sometimes there are real needs. Like, for example, somebody is sick.
Yeah.
And especially people who are suffering from diseases that don't go away overnight.
Right.
Like, for example, somebody is diabetic.
Yeah.
And those kind of where they need medication every day. And there's a family member. And you know that they really are in a situation where they don't make a good income or an income at all.
Right.
But despite that they are sick, it's a burden to somebody in diaspora.
Yeah.
And it becomes extremely difficult to balance taking the responsibility of making sure they have medication, they have the right kind of food, but at the same time it can be weighing on the shoulders.
Yes.
And as a person, especially a believer, sometimes there's that conscious pull and push. If I stop supporting this person, they may die sooner.
Right.
And so there's that guilt. So is there a way to balance? Or should somebody just say, you know what, I have my life, they have their life. I want to invest in myself. Because the real thing is we help. And a lot of times it's hard for us to invest.
Yeah.
It's very hard. So how do I balance that?
And it's not, and it's true. Yeah, sickness is very unique. Or a child going to school, say going to high school, and very poor family.
Yes.
Let's say for the case of sickness, this is a protracted problem for this person or member of the family.
Yes.
Unless you are the only child, it's you and your mom, or unless it's you and your uncle, then I'll say probably you need to pray for wisdom and budget it within your part of your expenditure. You cut your expenses here to ensure that at least you have quality of life. I'm saying if you are the only child, you're with your mom or you're with your sister, whatever, it's only two of you, you're the only dependent. But a family of many people, this is not your problem alone. If it's a parent or an uncle, we have to come together. There's money in Kenya too.
Yeah.
You can sell your chicken, you can sell your egg, you can sell your mahindi, whatever. Let me contribute like anybody else. The issue that watu wa majuu wana pesa nyingi, it's a lie. It's not true. We struggle here. It's a lot of struggling. Probably you are not able to pay your rent next month, or you somebody was sharing about the cash breaking at the same time, and taking all your savings. It's tough life here. So depending on each case, I will not say that you don't help the member of your family. Maybe the first time, yes, but as we know that if this is a protracted sickness, then we have to plan as a family. Everybody needs to contribute. That's the balance that I can say. And don't shy saying that life is hard here. All of us needs to contribute. All of us needs to help a member of the family get out of this tragedy. And if you have a good job, maybe you can contribute more than ever. But everybody should chip in. That's my point. And the question is, we are not permanent in this world. Suppose me in diaspora dies. What happens? What happens with the person who has been defending? They die too because nobody in Kenya or in Nigeria or wherever can help this person. So I think that's the reality. There's a friend of mine who advised me one time. I just shared exactly the same question. What do I do with people calling me with these exacerbated calls and urgency?
Yes.
And he told me that before you came here, problems were there. Did anyone die? Did anyone sleep without food when you are not here? And I partially agree with that one, and partially I can think differently. But it's true. That is the reality of it. People will find always a way of surviving and doing their own things. It's not different.
Yeah.
It's not different. Yeah, sickness, assess the situation of the family in question. If it's a big family, let us support our sick person together.
Yes.
Not one person because they're in diaspora.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And whatever your friend said, like if you are not to be there, how will they die as well?
What will happen? Yeah.
Yes. No kidding, but that's so true because when you have, there's an element whereby if somebody knows, Isika is in America, they will always send me money if I need it. Obviously, they're not going to be creative.
Right.
They are not going to try their level best. They will just sit. If somebody were to say, today I'll be giving you $1,000 every 2 weeks or every 1 month, I'm not going to work.
No.
There's no need.
Yeah.
There's no need of me exercising my creativity.
Yes.
There's no need. And so you are so right. Yes, it may be like a chronic disease, but there is an element whereby people don't want to utilize their gifts. Let's say, for example, for the people who are diabetic, they're limited with the kind of food they can eat.
Right.
Let's say like they can't eat sugar.
Yes. Or a big ugali.
Yes, or a big ugali. But they can plant, if they have a farm, they can plant like sorghum, they can plant millet. Like the foods that are, they support that kind of a person.
Yeah. Let me give you another example.
Yes.
People are calling about school fees and all this, and all of a sudden I realized this is a rabbit hole. And I asked them, what about the CDF? I hear that nowadays there's CDF.
Yes.
Oh, we didn't apply. Why? Why didn't you apply for it? Why can't you apply? Why can't you exhaust all those social nets provided? You are a taxpayer in Kenya, and why not apply? I would like to hear some of my relatives tell me, please, John, we got 10,000 from CDF, less 15,000 or 5,000. That is now teaming together, it's working together.
Yes.
But zero, because David is in US, so I have no to worry. I don't even have to waste my time filling these forms and applying. I think it's wrong. There are things that people can still use there. Talking about the issue of diabetes, for example, I realized that in Kenya, for example, there was this national insurance fund, NHIF, and why that's another direction. Or this universal health care being tossed around is not yet law. But if that happens, I think it will be wise to encourage our people to enroll into it so that a protracted disease like that it saves everybody's stress if you have coverage, universal coverage by the government. And maybe if somebody says there's a premium of, I don't know how much, and then when divided, it becomes easy and doable for everybody.
Yes.
So there are these things that happen on the ground, but people have become lazy because they have one person or two in the diaspora and they send money from here. They buy their new phones and enjoy life.
Yes. Sometimes they be living a better life than we are. Sometimes they don't even realize that we are here like 3 a.m. out trying to look for the money. But they are there comfortably sleeping. So we go like extra miles to make every dollar that we do. But as we wind up, one of the in the issue of also sending money, one of the other things that it frustrates me. And I don't know if I should be frustrated, but it does frustrate me, is when somebody calls me and they tell me, I need money to buy this particular thing or to go for a very specific reason. And then later on, you call and then you'll say, hey, I sent you money. Do you do that? Why did you not? They will say, hey, the money that you sent me, I split it. I spent some of it into this thing and this other thing instead of actually using that money for that purpose. What would you say about that? Is it as we have too much expectation because we are in America, whereby if it's for this, it's for this?
No, I think truth is truth. When somebody asks money for a particular thing, they will rather do what they intended to do. Yeah, but it's a sense of entitlement for people that you relate with that you will always look at their back. You are in the middle of the money. But I think you need to stand on your ground and from here and do what you can and tell them you are not able to do this because you are not able to. So I think truth will set you free.
Yes.
But I think what I can summarize from all this that we've been talking is that the issue of midlife crisis is even tough here.
Yes.
And we need to really watch our steps in terms of preparing ourselves to retire. Some of us come to the United States very late. We leave our professional work there and you start from scratch. And there's no room for error. There's no room for a lot of error.
Yes.
So we need to be less appointed in terms of preparing for that time. We might not get as enough as we should have been if we started here. But if we think that we have a lot of time, then when that time comes, it will be tough. It will be tough for people in the diaspora. We don't have a lot of safety net back home with a lot of possible good harvest of maize in the store. You can grind corn flour and have your ugali, or grow your beans and you have ketheri and grow your vegetables, and you can go to the garden, you have goat milk or cow. Yeah, I mean, there is, in terms of life, simple life of sustaining yourself. Yes. You have no options here in US. You either have a job and money to buy all these things, or you don't.
You don't, yes.
So I think it is tougher here than in the places of origin,
yes,
where the diaspora people come from.
Yes. So for us in diaspora, one of the ways we can minimize the effects of a midlife crisis is to learn to say no to some of the requests that we get from back home, no matter how much we love them. Yes, because at the end of the day, when it happens and we are in trouble, they will never help. No. They will never be there for us.
No, they will laugh at you.
Yes, they will laugh at you. Yeah, exactly. Yes, they will laugh at us. So I think it's okay. And I've had to learn to say no, because there's a lot of too many requests from friends, from family, and everybody.
Yeah.
So it's tough. So as we wind up, is there anything that you think we may have mentioned that you may want or maybe something that you want our audience to take away from this conversation?
Yes, we have talked a lot of things, but I will go back to what I just mentioned at the course of my conversation, that when you feel that you're disinterested and things might be coming to a halt, I want you to be very thankful that you are alive today, and you can change the course of things by staying positive and pursuing help from friends, family, grieving, yes, but at the same time becoming a fighter, a very wise fighter, looking for points where you can continue to add value to your life. And as a man of faith, I'll say God will show up at the right time and transform your life for the better. So don't give up.
Do not give up. Do not give up. That's pastors and brother final words for us. So I am really grateful that I got you to come onto the show. I know we had trouble with the technicalities. Thank you so much for your patience and help giving me ideas and all of that. But this conversation was so much needed. I really wanted to learn about these issues, right, because probably I'm not far away from it, and I wanted to be ready. But anyway, our viewers, we are winding up. And please, one more request. Our request from you guys is subscribe to the channel, please, and share. And also leave a comment if you liked what you heard and you want to hear more on a specific area. Please let us know, and we'll call Reverend and Pastor Mondi back and have a conversation either later this year or next year or the near future. So this will be it for now. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, brother,
thank you,
for coming in. And
welcome.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.